Joining us now for a conversation about how the Federal Bureau of Investigation is handling cyber threats, please welcome the FBI's Deputy Director, Paul Abbate, joined by Aruna Viswanatha, Senior Reporter at the Wall Street Journal.
We in the right place here?
So it's great to have you here today with us to talk about cyber threats and ransomware. And I thought maybe we would just start there. It's been a year and a half since the Colonial Pipeline attack that really seemed to seep into the American consciousness for the first time with long gas lines. And FBI Director Wray talked about that as sort of a very, very much a moment of transition for the broader country to become engaged on this problem. What has happened since then at the FBI?
Well, first, thank you, Aruna, for joining me here, and thanks to Aspen Institute for inviting us back, and thanks for everybody for being here. We've only seen the problem continue to get worse, actually. When we look back to Colonial and everything that happened over the last couple of years, even with all the efforts we've made, though I think there's been amazing progress in terms of bringing people together across the private sector, and within government, it's a highly profitable enterprise, and it's for criminals and criminal organizations to go after. So we've seen a higher volume of ransomware attacks, and the financial losses are only increasing as well. And it's something that we're going to have to come even closer together on and continue to work relentlessly at to counter it and prevent victims from being harmed.
You're saying that it's only increasing. Is that because more different criminal groups are getting access to the same kind of ransomware and deploying it, or are we just seeing more variants of ransomware being used by the same people, or what do you think accounts for this increase? There's
always new variants. It's really an infinite game in some ways, because we're doing our work to stop it, to meet the threat, and to hold those behind it accountable. And then on the other side, we have many of the same actors, those that we haven't been able to take off the playing field. They're still working at it. They're working every day to evolve and adapt just like we are, and they're finding new ways, they're finding new vulnerabilities to come after both government and the private sector. So again, it's something we're going to have to continue to focus on and work hard at to put down.
I thought we'd talk for a little bit about a case study recently where the FBI did come in to try to help a victim. There's the attack on the Los Angeles school district right before school started over Labor Day weekend. The FBI came in to help them. The superintendent said they refused to pay ransom, and some of the school district's data did end up online. Can you kind of walk us through what the FBI did there and how what you determined about that breach?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, this is not something that we want to happen. You know, we're all about prevention first and foremost, and we're working together each and every day, 24/7, to prevent attacks like that from happening. But when they do, we respond, and I think this is a really good example, again, on the partnership and the process and the response there. And it shows the work we do with partners on the front line. We were able to, because of the relationship we had with the Los Angeles Unified School District in advance of this attack, we were able to, they called us right away, our office in Los Angeles, and we were able to get the key people, agents, analysts, computer scientists, and others out there, within hours on the scene, same day, to stand behind and beside the victim and to work with them to help determine what happened, the extent of the damage, the attribution, what was the variant, who's behind it. That was all done very quickly. And then I think helping victims is one of the most important things. I believe the confidence and the reassurance that our personnel, along with partners, brings to a situation like that. It brings a steady calm to the situation, and it really helps victims recover and get through that. So I think that's a shining example of how we come together on the response aspect of it, though we're working hard every minute of every day to make sure something like that doesn't happen. And then further, we're learning from that. So the techniques, the tools that the bad guys are using there, the intelligence that we were able to glean from that, we're able to roll it back out. We issued a cybersecurity bulletin almost immediately, jointly with DHS and CISA, to inform the wider education and academic sector to put everyone out there in the best position to protect themselves on defense.
Can you talk about what you determined about who was behind that breach, and were you able to recover the data, or did you not have to do that in this instance because they had everything backed up?
Most importantly, the school district was able, because of everyone coming together, and that's inclusive of the private sector partners as well, they were able to get back online nearly immediately and able to avoid having to cancel school. This happened, as you recall, over the holiday weekend. So we were able to work, in that time period in advance of the schools reopening and ensure that everyone was able to get back to school and continue their studies.
So there is this tension when you're talking about cybersecurity at the FBI, when on the one hand you want to be able to stop an attack before it happens, on the other hand you maybe want to have part of the attack happen so that you can identify who's behind it and then prosecute them. How do you determine sort of which way to lean? Because obviously traditionally your interest is more in having people to prosecute and investigate and charge, but here you want to stop the attack from happening. How do you think through this?
I'm going to disagree with you. We never want any part of an attack to happen, right? We want to prevent harm. That's the number one thing that we do. And secondly, our goal is not to arrest people. That's not the thing. We believe that's an important component of the overall framework that we operate in, to take criminal cyber actors off the field, to hurt them so that they're not able. But we also realize we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of the the challenges that we face here in volume. So that's just one tool, one technique that we bring to bear. And sometimes we do sacrifice the opportunity to arrest somebody or bring criminal charges for the greater good, for the victim, to protect the victim from the confidentiality standpoint, and also to prevent further harm. That's how we approach in the context of any response we're making when an attack has happened. It's all about preventing further harm to the immediate victim and any others, and then moving forward and restoring them to full function, and then moving forward from there. If we can secondarily, the goal is to investigate, attribute, determine who perpetrated a given attack, and then hold them accountable, and we relentlessly do that, but that is not the first and foremost thing in any given event.
Okay, right. So your first goal is always, let's see if we can stop it, and then sort of third or fourth is, if we can identify who is behind it, can we try to prosecute them?
And we want to do all that. And I think, together, partnership with the private sector and our other government partners, I think we've seen tremendous progress and advancement based on hard lessons learned, particularly over the past couple of years. And we're going to have to work at it, though, continuously.
You've also been deploying FBI agent teams overseas to help other countries deal with cyber incidents from time to time. Can you talk to us about how you decide which ones to try to tackle? And I think you can talk a little bit about the case of Albania. You deployed a team there recently, and they were able to help attribute an attack to the Iranian government, I think.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because it's an extension of the type of work we do here, but reaching out globally. And again, it gets back to the partnership. So when it comes to working with, serving, and protecting allies and those who want to work with us, and most importantly, they're reaching out for help. That's the key thing. When we're working alongside an international partner, that country has to reach out and ask us for help and welcome us in. We've had, numerous examples of this, all of which I can't cite. Again, much like working with the private sector, in a lot of instances, we're doing this in a protective, covert, confidential way to support other countries, allies who have been victimized, and again, help them recover, prevent further harm, use that intelligence to protect people, and entities and organizations across the world. And then we're looking to identify those responsible, and then work together to go out, and hopefully bring them to justice and prevent them from doing further criminal acts in the future. But that's all on display with Albania, and that's all out in the public realm. That country not too long ago suffered a cyber attack that shut down pretty much all of their government systems and services. It was a widespread, very effective attack via cyber means on the country as a whole. They asked for our help. We went in. We sent our cyber action, one of our cyber action team, and again, experts, analysts, agents, technicians, and computer scientists over there, and worked alongside partners from the Albanian government and again, private sector, very importantly, to help with the response, the resolution, the remediation, and the attribution. And one of the key outcomes here was we were able to identify and attribute the attack to the government of Iran, and then subsequently and very quickly via that we were able to, through our government and in partnership with other allies across the world, issue a very strong statement attributing this attack to Iran and holding them accountable in that regard.
Did you determine what the motivation was for that attack?
The motivation behind that attack was ideological. Albania had been hosting a conference, or planning to host a conference there by an opposition group to the government of Iran, and it was a malicious attack to strike at the government of Albania for support in some ways to those who oppose the government of Iran.
Got it. So this was a topic of discussion on earlier panels, but I wanted to get your perspective from the FBI's vantage point. What impact has the war in Ukraine had on the proliferation of ransomware in the US, on the potential for cyber attacks? We're 9 months in. We didn't really see the kinds of attacks we maybe had anticipated we might see in the US. What have you learned watching what's been happening at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a number of takeaways from what we've seen there. As you mentioned, in some ways there were expectations that there might be a much severe, broader range of the use of cyber, as an offensive weapon, and that didn't really materialize. But that's a good news story in some ways, because I think what it reflects is a few things. One, taking lessons learned, because even for years in advance of the invasion of Ukraine, the country of Ukraine had been under attack and had suffered a number of attacks launched by the Russian government and components thereof from a cyber perspective, and a lot of damage had been done within the context of a number of those, but there were lessons learned from that by Ukraine, and by those of us who are allies and have partnered with Ukraine, and we see those lessons learned taken and applied in this context, and really in the preparation, not just in the context of hostilities, but overall. So I think the application of lessons learned, the preparation, and the readiness to meet those attacks really kept things down to a lower level than one might have expected. And then I think also key here with Ukraine, it really shows the importance of the private sector on defense, because some key private sector companies, U.S. companies, stepped in and taking the intelligence that they gleaned from their business and operations and work and presence in Ukraine, were able to take that information and intel and turn it around and share it with the government of Ukraine and others, and put them in a really good position to protect themselves from what was coming at them. And again, I think it just highlights the critical nature of the role that private sector has in all of this. And it's an instance where those private sector companies really stepped up big time and helped in the context of a war, essentially. something we really haven't seen before.
In terms of both adding to the intelligence picture and proactively defending against the potential foes.
Yes, taking the information intelligence that private sector company is seeing on their network out there, what they have visibility into, given the infrastructure that they own, and then turning it around and sharing it with a country, in this case Ukraine, and putting them in a position to better defend themselves.
And I also wanted to get your take on another topic that was discussed earlier today, sort of cultivating the cyber workforce. The FBI obviously needs a large pool of cyber talent. There was a recent report in ProPublica where some former agents were sort of faulting the FBI a bit with having a culture that's not that conducive to recruiting and retaining kind of a more technically trained workforce. What is the FBI doing to try to develop that? That's pretty different from the traditional agent pool.
This is a big time challenge for all of us in government, and we're investing a lot in this to reach out. I think with the FBI, we're fortunate in big ways because even with all the criticism and everything we faced, we still have a great brand, and people are attracted to come to the FBI because of the work that we do, the people they get to work with there, the mission first and foremost of keeping the country safe and protecting people. That's built in. We've had to adjust, I think, and not rely on that solely. And I think if you go back historically, we realized we can't be complacent in anything that we do, whether that's recruiting agents, analysts, or the type of individuals we now need in this space with the technical skills to carry out the work in the cyber realm. So we are still constrained in many ways, like every government agency is, in terms of pay relative to private sector, but we still have the mission and we still have the brand. We do rely heavily on that, but we're much more forward-leaning in terms of going out now, getting in front of people in universities, colleges, business, private sector, and working hard to bring people in to the FBI, and particularly those people with the right skills and technical skills that we need to do this important work.
Is there any sense that in the future the FBI might sort of change the requirements in order to try to retain and recruit that kind of talent versus the more traditional agents that you've gone for?
We're very focused on that. Each and every week I meet with our Human Resources Division and branch, and we were just talking about that yesterday. How do we approach this differently? What can we do better to recruit and retain? And part of it is financial. We have certain authorities within the agency, and we have relied on that to be able to pay retention bonuses and leverage mechanisms like that to keep people. But it's still, in the competitive environment we're in, that only goes so far. So that's one thing, but we're looking across the board. So, much like the private sector and our, government colleagues, we think about the new face of work, flexibility, mobility, things like that. And I think, the Bureau, we're very, as you all know, traditional, hierarchical organizations that some might say is set in its ways. But I will tell you all on the inside, we have become much more open-minded in terms of the way people work in the Bureau. And, that's another component of keeping people on board, letting them work from different places. Now, there are security considerations and limitations with this as well. We deal with classified information and sensitive information, so that does present, constraints and parameters in terms of where we can do that work and how we can do it. So we need to stay within that framework to protect our people and our information. But we're thinking always of ways that we can do things better to better keep people and to bring people in to the organization.
And in our, we only have 30 seconds left, but in our in our final moments, I'd ask you to sort of reflect on looking out over the next year. Give us a hope, like one prediction or hope that you hope to see a year from now on the cyber front.
Well, we want to have zero crime, but we're realistic. We know that that's not possible. Look, I think we have to stay on the track we're on. What I see in cyber, and this applies in other disciplines that we operate in as well, everybody's coming together more closely and in ways we've never seen before, and that's within government and the interagency, both intelligence and law enforcement, and the private sector as well. I think this space in cyber requires really, we talk about collaboration, but this requires hyper collaboration. We have to work even harder to bring everything together, the information, the intelligence, and the operational activity, both offensive and defensive, that we're doing. And again, we've seen tremendous advancement in that across the board. So we're going to look to continue that progress, bring everyone closer together, having the opportunity to be here in a forum like this, in the public-private sector environment is one component of that. We're going to keep working hard on that, and I just want to see us continue to make progress. And we're going to work hard also, to be as preventative, always striving to be 100%, but recognizing the realities of the world as well. And then when people violate that and they commit crimes, we are going to go after them relentlessly. We're going to hunt them down wherever they are in the world, and we're going to bring them to justice right here in the United States, and we're going to do that together. Thank you.
Thank you.